My mom is cheating on my dad, and I don't know how to tell him. My mom and dad have been together for 25 years, and I could have honestly said that they were the ideal relationship in my mind. They rarely ever argued, always talked to each other, and, I thought, were always loving and faithful to each other. I can even remember in school a few of my teachers telling me that my dad and mom were a great couple, and that I should be thankful that I had a great example of what a healthy relationship looks like. They've rarely argued. I can count on both of my hands the times they've yelled at each other. They've always been happy together, as far as I know. I needed to use my mom's laptop to send off some work emails, as mine was not connecting to our Wi-Fi. I started sending off emails, and my mom's messages popped up on her laptop. It was from a guy named Chris, and he thanked her for draining him last night. I, not knowing what the hell was going on, decided to open up her messages, and I saw that she has been cheating on my dad for the past year at least. The messages they sent each other were extremely explicit, and they sent pictures and videos. I started to hyperventilate and realized what was happening. I started to dry heave. I was able to screenshot the messages and send the pictures to my email. After that, I told my parents I was going out for a bit. My dad told me to stay safe and kissed my forehead, and I nearly broke down in the house. I was able to drive away for a few minutes, get to a private location, and cry. Why would she do this? Does she not love my dad? He's done so much for her. He waited on her hand and foot when she broke her leg skiing, and he moved so she could be closer to her family when she went through PPD with me. He's done so much for all of us, and she does this. Why? Dad was always there for her when she needed him, and he worked overtime to allow us to experience things together. I don't know what I'm going to tell my sister. She's coming back from university next week, and she adores our dad. It's also the last thing I want to tell my brother because he's doing his master's, and I don't want anything to distract him from his final exams in a few months. It's like I can't tell anyone about this. All of my friends' parents are divorced or were never married to begin with, and they also looked at my parents as what a good marriage looked like. I'm sorry if I'm rambling. I just don't know what to do. Whenever I think about it, I feel hurt. I remember when I was 16 and my mom showed me the love letters and poems my dad wrote for her, and they were all so beautiful. He's loved her with all of his heart for 25 years, and she's been doing this to him. The last person I want to tell is my dad. I feel as if telling him will break everything, and the dad I knew, who was so loving and caring, will be gone. I've been told by my friends that it happened to their parents too, that for years they were never the same. My best friend's dad took his own life when he found out about his wife's infidelity. I'm sorry if this is rambling. I'm just so hurt and confused. Why would she do this? How do I tell my dad that the person he's loved for the last 25 years has betrayed him? Any advice is appreciated. TLDR, I borrowed my mom's laptop to send some work emails and saw a message from Chris thanking her for draining him last night. I looked into their message history and found out she is having a full-blown affair with this guy and has been doing so for at least a year. I don't know how to tell my dad. Any advice is appreciated. Update. TLDR, I asked my mom if they had an open relationship or any agreement to see outside parties. They do not, so my mom was cheating on him. I told my dad what I knew. He ended up searching my mom's laptop and saving the majority of the emails. He then confronted my mom, who denied having an affair. My dad has now filed for divorce, kicked my mom out of the house, and is going to NC aside from through a lawyer. Sorry for the post being so long. It has been a while since I last updated, and a lot has happened. Thank you to everyone who responded and to everyone who DM'd me with advice and support. So after I got back home, I headed straight to bed. When I was having breakfast the next morning, I was on Twitter, and my mom saw a thread on the Chris Rock situation at the Oscars, and we got to talking about it. I ended up asking if she would have ever had an open relationship or agreement with my dad. She shut it down right away and said she could never do such a thing and that she loved my dad too much to ever let him sleep with someone else. She then went on for about 10 minutes about how much she loved him and how they were each other's one and only. I wanted to scream at her that I knew what she was doing, but I held my tongue and knew that I had to tell my dad about what I had found out. At the end of the week, I got everything together and asked my dad if he wanted to spend the day with me, go get food, and do whatever he wanted to do. He said sure and that he hasn't really spent time with me since I started my new job, and it'd be nice to spend the day together. I tried to keep everything together, but he could tell something was off. We went to his self-storage lot as he needed to pick up some stuff to bring back to the house. Before we left, he stopped me and asked if I was all right. He said, "Hey, are you okay? You've been really quiet and clingy today. Did something happen with your boyfriend?" I ended up bursting into tears and telling him what happened. He asked if I was 100% sure, and I said that I had my laptop with me and I could show him some of the emails I had saved. When he saw them, I could see the pain in his eyes. It was like someone had stabbed him. For a few minutes, he was silent, and there were tears just streaming down his face. He wasn't sobbing, there were just tears. He hugged me and said, "Thank you for telling me about this. No matter what happens from here, please remember that I love you and your brother and sister. You are my pride and joy. Don't ever forget that." He dried his face, and we ended up driving home. When we got back, he told me not to mention anything to Mom, and he wanted to check some things before he talked to her about this. We all ended up going to sleep early that night, but I couldn't rest. I kept on having nightmares, and the worst happened to my dad. I ended up going downstairs at around 2 a.m. and saw my dad on Mom's laptop looking through her emails. I asked what he was doing, and this was the first time I've ever seen my dad so angry. He turned his head around to me and just said, "That effing bee," and left the house. I checked the emails and saw that he had 4 days open. Seeing this has truly ended any part of me that had any feelings for my mom. The days in question were the day my aunt, Dad's younger sister, passed away, the day after, the day of her funeral, and the day her ashes were scattered. In those emails, my mom asked to meet up with Chris and asked Chris what he was going to do with her when she got to his place. I vomited again and realized that Dad had just left the house, and I had no idea where he was going. I got outside and saw he was sitting in the car, and he was bawling. He couldn't stop crying. I felt as if this had broken him, and after about an hour, I convinced him to come back inside and try to get some rest. I closed the laptop and put it back so my mom wouldn't find out about my dad going through her history. The following Tuesday, my dad decided to confront Mom about her affair. I was not home when it happened, but he sat down with her and asked if she was having an affair. She, of course, denied this and said that she could never do such a thing and that she loved him with all her heart. My dad lost it, showed her the emails, yelled at her, called her brother to pick her up, and said that he was filing for divorce immediately. Mom tried to say it was a mistake and that they could work through this, but Dad isn't having any of it. Since that day, he has not contacted her unless it was through a lawyer. My uncle has come over the house a few times to get clothes and other things for my mom, and he tries to give updates on her well-being to my dad. But he just shuts it down and says he doesn't care and says that she needs to speed up on getting paperwork signed. As for my brother and sister, I contacted my brother on Wednesday and told him what had happened. I apologized because it was so close to his exams, and this is the last thing that he should be worried about. He said that he'd be coming back once exams were over and that I should keep an eye on Dad just in case anything happened. My sister, on the other hand, came back home the day after I told her and hasn't really left Dad's side since. She is basically waiting on him hand and foot, cleaning the house, and making dinner for all of us. I think she's taking this the worst, and my dad thought so too, so he asked her to see a counselor and said that he'd be okay. My mom has tried to contact all of us, but none of us have responded aside from making sure she had started on the paperwork and was in contact with a lawyer, etc. Dad has said that I should probably meet with Mom soon, as despite all that's happened between the two of them, she was never a bad mom and loved us just as much as he did. So I will be meeting with her next week, and I am dreading every minute of it. So now we're all in a weird place where we don't know what's going to happen next. Dad is a lot less like himself and is a lot more quiet and reserved, which scares me, but thankfully, a lot of his friends and family have been over offering him support. The one funny thing I can say is that when I told my close friends about their divorce, a lot of them made the joke that they'd be snapping up my dad once he's back on the dating market, which I can see as being a bit weird but is pretty funny because they admitted to having crushes on him when they were 60. Stupid stuff like that, even if they are jokes, gives me some hope that once this all ends, he'll hopefully find someone who values and loves him like we all do. Thank you for watching the video.